Good on this morning.
Hi, good morning. Rob Browne here on this Tuesday, July 2nd. July 2nd.
Groundhog's Day.
2024. Hey, it is 4th of July, Independence, Freedom Week. Rob Browne, Brendan Martin here with you.
Screw the British.
Got a great show. Hey, man, no redcoats. We've got a great show in line for you today. Chris Lee, the Southeastern 14, now 16, will bat in the leadoff position. Yancy Portal, Rebel Yell Hotline from Oxford. And also Rodney Ore, Tighter Insider from Tuscaloosa. Get your pen and paper handy. Smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. That app that you see every day on the text threads, the previews, just click on that and subscribe, and you'll get notifications every time this network goes live, which is a lot. We got a bunch of shows. Hey, we're coming at you right back after this opening message.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Chris Lee, love the new background of your set. I like that. That is really cool. What is that made out of?
I don't know. I think you're all a little pixelated this morning there, Mr. Lee.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Chris, love the background. Talk about that new set. What's that made out of? The Southeastern looks like the 16.
The Wheel of
Death. Sorry.
Hope
you can. It does look like the Wheel of Death.
Can we spin it? It looks like we could spin it, and then it would like who do you want to play? It's the Wheel of Death. Welcome to the SEC Wheel of Death.
I think Vanna White's available if Pat Sajak's really retiring at the age of 77.
I feel like you came in on your wrong browser today, Chris. I feel like you went in on like you usually come in on Chrome, and then you came in on Safari or something. Maybe that was it. But I feel like Chris has got cooler sets than we do.
Chris has an awesome set.
It looks all like put together, like it's like painted and really professional. Unlike mine, which is a mosaic of just a cacophony of disorganization of 70 years of sports TV and sports, my father's files, old computers and laptops, God knows what treasures are on there.
Yeah. Well, look, I've got the map behind me and you can see Florida right there. I looked at the weather guy, like describing it, but it's all contiguous. Chris, let's get your takeaways from what's been going on TV the last couple of days at Texas Sunday and at Oklahoma. First off, what'd you think about the production on SEC Network, bringing them in, and which fan base made you feel better about them being sitting at the lunch table with you? I saw that SEC Shorts. That is hilarious.
To be honest, I haven't seen it yet. We were in the middle of creating a new baseball show, which we're going to debut today, and family birthdays and stuff. So it's been maybe I'll catch it on the back. So we did our own thing yesterday with Texas and Oklahoma. It wasn't long, but I think just the busyness of us getting our stuff prepared for what's next, it got in the way of seeing that. So,
I watched your podcast. It was like 10 minutes. It was a quick one when Texas A&M announced the new baseball coach. I got the alert live because I have subscribed to can I officially call it the Southeastern?
You may. Southeastern 16, although we did an entire show yesterday announcing Southeastern 16 with the old logo up, so we had a laugh at our own expense.
We do that all the time around here.
Trust me.
That's just a Monday.
Yeah, it's a Monday.
At least one of us got it right.
Yeah.
So
that's right. That's right.
But I love what you did announcing about A&M's new baseball coach. And got more and more A&M people. I like that the way you just popped it up. Buddy did one during the deal, during the Omaha when the Gators jumped up and beat Kentucky and then had to play again later that night, had to play a game against Texas A&M and just ran out of gas, but still finished third. But your thought now, we're here, it's 4th of July week, and everybody's talking about schedules or talking about magazines coming out. Where are you right now? Let's talk about your new show that you're doing on baseball, because I know baseball is probably your favorite of all, and all the other ones really well.
Yeah, our channel has been built a lot around current news stuff, predictions, reactions, things like that. Whoa.
Did you predict that my dog was going to come in and pull my camera down?
Oh. Carry on. Nothing to see here.
For once, it wasn't my dog that was the one that interrupted the show.
Yeah.
But no, sorry.
It's like, remember the Pink Panther, Peter Sellers was in the hotel in France, and he goes, "Does your dog bite?" He goes, "No." And he petted him. He goes, "Ah!" He goes, "I thought you said your dog did not bite." He goes, "It's not my dog."
Right. Right. Where were we? But we've added weekly shows for football, baseball, basketball. They'll even go during the off season. They're all going to be constructed a little differently, but just a chance to add some new content to keep up with some off season topics. If you're an SEC baseball fan, football fan, basketball fan, a good place to stop in for an hour once a week and get your news. And I think people will like what we're doing there.
Well, I think that is powerful stuff, because if you look on the networks, on SEC Network, they don't have enough content. They have to play the same shows over and over and over a lot, and they do great stuff. I'm especially a fan of what Roman Harper and Cole Kubelik do during football season on Read and React, because people, give Cole Kubelik a hard time because he talks so much about the offensive line, but thank God somebody does. And gosh, does he know football? Cole and Roman and Chris Doering. I think Chris is fantastic because he's a walk-on, and you think about Chris, I think he went to PK Young in Gainesville, but he grew up a Gator. And you look at the baseball analyst, Chris Burke, Tennessee guy, that's on there. But your show, I really love the quality, and you go deep. But it's not like, Ben Stein in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You're not losing people like you're going, anyone. It's interesting. Talk about Texas A&M's hire for the new baseball coach, because that was an in-house hire, and you talked about his track record.
Yeah, he's 36, and that's young. Now, Tony Vitello was 38 when Tennessee hired him, so You've seen young hires work. And I'd have to check on Carrick Jackson. I think he was 40, 41 when Missouri hired him. He's done it a year. Look, I know they were shooting higher. I think they tried hard for Tony Vitello. I don't think he's leaving Tennessee now. Skip Johnson at Oklahoma, his name came up. But your timelines of things change now. I mean, this was always going to be a little bit of a tricky time anyway because of the draft and making sure, you do your best in terms of getting your recruits through the draft as much as you can help it. But now with the transfer portal, you have that too. And A&M had 5 of its 9 starters from last year hit the portal, plus a key reliever. And one of the first things Kendall Rogers tweeted out was, I expect A&M to keep all the kids that hit the portal now that this hire has happened. And these weren't just guys. I mean, it was Gavin Grohovac and Jace Laviolette and Ali Camarillo, and they were dudes, Caden Kent. So I'm not saying that I don't know. Maybe the hire would have been the same either way. But when you can assemble a team, if you keep the right guys, that might be a preseason top 5 team next year. I have to think that was part of the calculus.
Yeah. And you think about it, we know the relationship with Chris Del Conte, the AD at Texas, and Jim Schlossnagle. But again, the money that A&M has, And we were pulling up some figures the other day. Texas A&M, and Ohio State. Texas is third, A&M second, Ohio State one. A&M, like 270-something million in athletic revenues last year. Chris, when people say money alone can't solve all the problems, it's true, because it didn't get Tony Vitello to move over from Tennessee. We're starting to pay baseball coaches in the SEC what we were paying football coaches 10 and 15 years ago.
I figured it was only a matter of time. I mean, let's look at how far things have come in a couple of years with baseball. Paul Skeens allegedly got paid $250,000 by LSU to transfer from Air Force. That looks like a bargain now. You're hearing Laviolette and Grohovac had 7-figure offers in the portal. Again, with this stuff, who knows what's true and who knows what's not? But I mean, why would you not if you can afford it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Laviolette is going to be the number one pick of the draft next year, potentially. Grohovac's going to be a first rounder in 2 years. I mean, why would you not do that if you can do it? I think that, and I keep going back to this. I think that if you had put this product on TV long before 2014, I think that's when the SEC network was launched. I wonder how far along we would be now, say if we were 20 years into this rather than 10, because you're seeing places like Knoxville where they didn't care about baseball, starting to happen at Kentucky too, where they're starting to catch the fever. I think you've got probably 15 of the 16 teams in on it. I don't know about Missouri, but it's like anything else. It's getting super competitive and the money is following.
Yeah, and you look around in the SEC, baseball, it was almost like something to go play baseball. It was an afterthought. Now it's become an absolute priority. That's what's different about it. And you start getting, when you get serious about something and you commit to it, that's when you see the results. And again, name me a school in the SEC that's not spent more than 30 or 40 million in the last 2 or 3 years on upgrading baseball facility. Ole Miss, Yancy Portal will be on in a minute with Rebel Yell Hotline. I think in the last 5 or 10 years, they've spent $128 million on the baseball facilities. Facilities. I mean, that's hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, A&M was about to spend $80 million on a facility that was built, 10, 12 years ago. Looks to me from TV pretty nice. Tennessee's spending a lot of money. I mean, the only one that might be accepted from that list is Missouri. I feel like maybe they have spent some money, but I'd have to look that up. Kentucky built a brand new ballpark a couple of years ago. Vanderbilt is going to be embarking on some renovations here, and I think after next season, it's an interesting time to watch all the money being dropped on baseball related things around the league.
I got to ask you this. I was up there in Nashville. I go up there a good bit. I was up there for the Auburn game November 4th. There's a lot of construction. Obviously, they're doing a retrofit on the football stadium. Number one, is it going to be ready for this football season? Number two, is Vanderbilt landlocked? And by that, I mean, you look at a school like Auburn, you've got the basketball, the football, the baseball, all right there at that intersection. Yeah. And it's convenient. And then Vanderbilt looks like the same situation. I got to say this about Vandy. Are a lot of their fans out in other parts of Nashville, Williamson County? Or are they in the right place? Because they've got a great program with an elite coach.
Yeah. First of all, they are landlocked. Well, I mean, who knows? Vanderbilt's got a ton of money. You can always buy other things. It bought the Wendy's right next to campus. I don't know what that's going to be used for. But where the facilities are, you can literally throw a rock from any one of baseball, football, and basketball and hit the other one. They are all crammed in there together, which is, I guess, that and finances have dictated some of what they've done. Yeah. The stadium for football is going to be, I would say, half complete coming into the season. Mm-hmm. What used to be the open end zone is now going to be closed. They've got a facility going up. It is a combination premium seating / basketball practice facility. And that's supposed to be, the outside should be done by the Virginia Tech game, which is the opener. All the inside stuff with finishing up the practice facility, I think that was supposed to be done by September. I don't know if that's all going to be done or not, but the forward-facing elements that affect football will be done. What used to be the closed end zone, which was the open end zone last year with the much talked about construction zone and the hanging scoreboard and all that, they have put down the foundation and what's the architectural term, the steel girders and everything. And I think they've started to finish on that, but that won't be done before 2025. So you'll see the skeleton of a building in what used to be the closed end zone, and you will see a finished product in what used to be the open end zone.
Yeah. And as again, Dad being an architect, I know this little bit of savant trivia. Concrete has no natural tensile strength. So you have to put the rebar and all that, and then the concrete goes around it. But look, Chris, you cover Vanderbilt, and don't ever take, I want to see them succeed because a lot of my family members went there, and it's an SEC school. The current athletic director, or whatever she is, does she care as much as the coaches do? Because that always helps.
That's a good question. I think that when Vanderbilt had a chance to really flip the script on this was 2018, when they finally were able to get David Williams out of office, and he hadn't been doing, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of other people, a very good job for a few years. Now, David had done some things, like if you go back 10 years ago, in fact, I wrote a book, you can find it. Vanderbilt was at the very end of probably the best run of athletics maybe it's ever had. I mean, they'd been to a bunch of NCAA tournaments within recent memory.
Yeah.
They just won a national title in baseball. They would be runner-up the next year. And they had just finished back-to-back top 25 in the AP poll in 2012 and 2013.
Yeah.
And that was right when it started to crumble. 2014, they hired Derek Mason, went 0 for 8 in the SEC. But they had a chance to reboot in 2018. I will never forget, I was talking to one of the people that was on the very, very small circle of people who would pick the next AD. This would have been in September of 2018 before the South Carolina game. And I was on the field before the game talking to this person, and they had a chance to grab a big-time AD from somewhere. I won't get into names because people's privacy, it's a sensitive thing, but I know for a fact there were several people that want to get on the radar, guys that have since won national titles at their schools and major sports, been to Final Fours, college football playoffs, those types of things. People from the outside have always viewed this, as a place with resources. It's a place in Nashville. All the things going for it that we could name. And one of the people on the committee looked at me and said, "Hey, I'm just going to give you a heads up. We may not be looking." That Vanderbilt is, and I got the speech about how, not everybody's right for Vanderbilt. So-and-so might fit better at, such and such a Power 5 school, but not here for reasons that were unspecified. And I think it all goes back to control. I don't think the school wants anybody that gets out there and goes crazy and starts winning and brings demands. But I just remember being stunned and thinking, why would you not target a legitimate athletic director? And they haven't had one since then. As somebody put to me, they were about to hire Boo Corrigan, and as somebody said to me, of course they were not going to hire Boo Corrigan. They don't want an athletic director. They want a vice chancellor in charge of athletics. Well, since 2018, when since that day, they have gone 3-38 in the SEC in football, and 28-78 in the league, I think, in basketball.
Wow. And you think about Kevin Stallings. He looked like a basketball coach. He had people, the social thing to do, it was big time, was to be seen and attend Vanderbilt basketball at Memorial Gymnasium.
Yeah.
Bryce Drew killed Vanderbilt basketball. A number of things. But I'm sorry, but they'd never had a losing season at Memorial Gymnasium. I worked with a friend who played football at Vanderbilt. He was crushed. I mean, he knew football would struggle, but not basketball. I mean, there's Vanderbilt basketball, just the configuration of the court and everything. There is no reason. Now, here's the question, and I think you've said it. A lot of my Nashville friends go, we don't want to be another Atlanta. We don't want to be that big. Because look what's happened to Georgia Tech. The bigger Atlanta's gotten, unfortunately, they become an afterthought. And they're right there in the middle of Atlanta, downtown. You know? Vanderbilt's got, you talk about 35 or 40 boosters that are really, really deep pockets. If somebody could organize them together, they would just go to Vanderbilt and say, look, we're getting rid of this person. That's how you do it. That's how it happens at every other school. I mean, the power brokers, you get rid of these people because there's so much there to work with. You know? I mean, that's the thing that gets me. You look at Vanderbilt, like, think about Nashville, what it's become, Broadway and all. I mean, but again, the Nashville people like that. That's what I want to know. What do the natives think about? Because I've got in-laws from my first marriage that live out in Williamson County in Franklin. Franklin, boy, that's the highest per capita county in the state of Tennessee. I've sold a lot of bonds from there. You don't have to worry about anything in Williamson County.
Yeah, look, it would take me a whole hour or more to unpack all the ways that they have failed to serve and build a fan base. What did kind of catch my ears, and sorry, I went scrambling for something on the internet to make sure I had my facts right. I'm going to ask you a question, see if you get it right.
Hey, that's what I love about you. You don't ever say anything unless you know it, and I respect that. I don't know. I don't know.
I thought I knew it, but I started unwinding it in my mind, and I couldn't give myself the inner answer I needed till I consulted the internet. But I did find out I was right. You talked about how Bryce Drew killed Vanderbilt basketball. That's still a topic of a lot of debate because they haven't exactly been very good since they fired him either. But a little trivia for you: the team that went 0-18 in the SEC. How many guys that played in the NBA were on that roster?
2.
You're halfway there.
4. Wow.
4. Saban Lee, Aaron Nesmith. Who was it? Well, Darius Garland, of course. And the fourth one, Matt Ryan, who got a cup of coffee as a shooter. He transferred in from Notre Dame and wound up at Chattanooga.
Yeah.
But, and of course, Garland got hurt 4 games into the season. They had, I don't know if you remember this, they played Liberty. I think that was a Liberty team that ended up being a 12 or 13 seed in the NCAA tournament and had just beaten them in his last full game. And Garland dropped 35 on Liberty, and I think had some assists in there too. I was watching the game. I remember riding back on a plane watching the game. They're playing Kent State. He goes in for a layup. Somebody shoves him in the back. Comes down awkwardly on the knee, tears a meniscus, opted for he could have been out a couple of weeks if he'd taken the surgery most people typically take. He took the one that was more complicated, that keeps you from having knee pain when you get to be our age, and missed the season. But that was such a weird thing because that team had talent. And I think you remember, they played Tennessee. I think they were 0-3 in the league. Took Tennessee down to the wire, blew a lead late. There was a very controversial foul call on Grant Williams, or where they fouled Grant Williams that didn't go their way. They ended up losing by a couple of points, and the season just kind of went in the toilet after that. But it remains the strangest thing I think I've covered on that beat was seeing that team that had so much talent and was actually competitive at some games until the gravity of the losing just kind of took over.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about money. We talk about finances with every school. But the example I like to use is U.S. Armed Forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Now, try telling a Marine that he's in the Navy. You better watch out, okay? Because all the Marines I know say, well, the Navy gives us a ride to fight in their little whites. There's a lot of rivalry there. But the Marine Corps is the least funded of all units. Which one has the most pride? Puts the fear of God into people in any and every corner of the world. United States Marine Corps. I met a man who was at the Chosin Reservoir. 25,000 Marines kept 300,000 Chinese plus 1 million in reserve across the Yellow River at bay. Listen, I would say this: if Vanderbilt's fan base is not as big, and you said it may have shrunk down to 8,000, that's crazy. That's an SEC school. I just wish someone would organize their boosters and they just go in there to the president's office and tell them this is how it's going to be done. Because then you could see, Chris, I respect you because you had the backbone to call it what it is when they do things. And we've got to get free speech back alive and well in the mainstream, the Chosin Reservoir. That's correct. And that's what we've got to do because Vanderbilt, you should not be afraid to call it like you see it. The freedom of the press, it's in the First Amendment. It protects against liability and slander. But someone like you've tried to do it, and you do it right. And I like that.
You could tell back around 2019 and 2020 that things were going off the rails, that the school had a lot of control over athletics, and it was run by people that didn't need to run it. You had the Sarah Fuller fiasco, which if people don't know right now, that was a total joke. They had other kids on the team that could have kicked and were told don't bother. And I knew it. I went with that on a podcast, and that got me banned from the press box. That and some criticism for basically half a year, which they can't do. And they found that out when some of my colleagues called on my behalf. But in any case, I mean, that's, the truth is the best. Sunlight's the best disinfectant. That's the saying. I think we need a lot more of that in college sports, not just Vanderbilt, but just college sports in general. And I think that should be a lot of our role. I don't know that you see a lot of hard-hitting stories from the media anymore in anything, but if we can't talk about the truth, what can we talk about?
Well, and that's why we have the sunshine laws, exposure for what is happening. And there's stuff that I'm glad, the Sarah Fuller, again, I say this every time, but what if they'd have tried a fake field goal and she went around right end and Javon Curse or Takeo Spikes is coming up with a full head of speed and hit her in the open field? We would be having congressional hearings about football is too violent. We got to end the game. And look, I've got 2 daughters. I got 2 sons. This is just calling it like it is.
Hey, I brought that up before she ever played because she was the kickoff person.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, what if she has to make a tackle, and gets hurt? Then how is everybody going to feel about that? Because the game was moving fast. I mean, they have outlawed, they've tried to legislate away the kickoff in the NFL to prevent injuries. It's one of the most dangerous plays in sports. And you're putting somebody out there that if this is competitive football and it's not a publicity stunt, if we're going to take you at face value, you're going to be called on to maybe make a tackle. Now, when you kick the ball 28 yards and it gets fair caught, and it was called a squib kick on the broadcast, and the SEC went in all in on it too. What I was told, that's as far as you could kick the ball. But they dubbed it a squib. But my point was, if you have to make a tackle,
called the truth.
Well, I was too well sourced, and nobody would talk about it because everybody was too bought in. The name carded already, and if you people that already made up your mind and labeled these, I'm just telling you what it is. You may not like it, but that's what it is. And I mean the Tennessean bit, USA Today bit, the Athletic bit, they all bit, but they weren't looking very hard either. But my point all along was, what happens if somebody gets hurt? It's a feel-good story now, but if you're really going to task her with the task of playing football, sometimes making a tackle is part of that. And what if somebody gets hurt? Then I think somebody's been negligent. You can't just take somebody out there, charge them with making a tackle, not being used to it, not knowing the form, all those things. And I thought it was incredibly responsible of the school and a lot of people that jumped on the bandwagon, but that was the those were the times we were living in 2020.
Yeah. And you think about it. Again, I'm talking about funding. Marine Corps, the least funded. The one thing that my brother-in-law has told me after 26 years in the Corps and 7 combat tours, that whether you're in a chef, whether you're in the finance quartermaster corps, you're an infantry, you're an aviator, you're in a tank, a Marine is first and foremost a rifleman. And you spend a lot of time on the range learning how to shoot. You're a football player, everything's on the table. Okay? Nobody's protected, no special exemptions. You go out there, you get the hell knocked out of you. Ben Troop calls the SEC, he goes, it's a violent league. I played in it. The NFL, it's a collision league. Yeah. And my friend Dana Marquez, who's been the director of equipment operations at Auburn since 2005, who's now got companies like Falcon Pursuit, helmetfitting.com, Carbon Tech shoulder pads. I'm going to get him on the show again next week. They are doing stuff now with avatars, and we're going to get into that. Exo Armor, Dr. Michael Zabala, College of Engineering at Auburn. The 3D printers, you get injured in the first quarter, they can have a brace with the coordinates fired in, fire it back to you. In the third quarter, you're playing again. Exo Armor. We need more Chris Lees out there exposing nonsense when it happens and giving credit and praise when it's worthy. But man, if I'm a Vanderbilt fan, I'm going, you cannot infringe and deny us the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what NIL is all about. I just think it'd be really amazing if Vanderbilt had an athletic director like John Hartwell, who's on our show on Thursdays. Holy cow. Yeah. Background is a CPA, Citadel grad. Holy cow. If I was a president, that's the first guy I'd hire. And I'd have people that say, we're going to figure this out. That's just what it is. But Chris, I know you got your show coming up at 9. We went long. It's hard to get off because you're so good. It's just, I love having you on here. Okay. But tell people about your new show, how they can keep up with you. Stay on with us if you want. We've got Yancy Portal coming up next, but tell people how they can follow all the great work. And we wish you nothing but the best. Happy 4th of July, freedom, independence, and the greatest country in the history of the world. Love having you on.
Oh, thank you. It's always fun. Southeastern 16, go check us out on YouTube. We are here to talk SEC football, baseball, basketball. We are debuting, I don't know if we're going to release it today or tomorrow, but we're going to record it today. And hour-long baseball show that we'll do every week, even through the off season, to keep you updated on what goes on in the league. But if you were just looking for wall-to-wall coverage of the 3 major men's sports, and we talk about every team, again, 12 months out of the year, I think you'll love what we do.
Yeah, what's not to like? Hey, man, have a great day. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
You bet. All right, let me say something again about one of our sponsors, Coolmore Logistics and Transportation, located in Memphis. Anything you need hauled on a truck, LTL, vans, containers, Coolmore Logistics, Memphis-based with a global reach. Steel coils, lumber, steel, concrete, seed, cotton, rice, beans, hoppers. They can do it all. What they'll do, and get a client, say down in Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, has to ship something across the country to L.A., to Long Beach. Bam. They get the order. It's posted, and within a couple of minutes, their phone's blowing up. Looks like a trading floor in a securities firm or a hedge fund in there. Robert Weaver, John Dicken, the team over there, Coolmore Logistics. Again, anything that you need shipped, fruit, produce, they can take care of all your needs. And also, the great folks, let me say something about another one of our sponsors who has really stepped up for media days. Really appreciate him. Chris Aiken, Web-Footed Kennels in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I've known Chris for 29 years. He's as good as it gets. Training your hunting dogs, retrievers. He's working with a German wirehair right now, doing some amazing things. You wouldn't believe it. Sometime a dog goes to a trainer, and as Roy D. Mercer says, he doesn't know come here from Sikkim. Chris Aiken and his team up there in Jonesboro, his His facility, the grounds are incredible. But he's also just one of the nicest, best people you will ever meet. Check him out. Web-Footed Kennels, Jonesboro, Arkansas. Love them. And Matei's Garage and Cordova Automotive in Memphis. Anything, car, truck, SUV with an engine, motorcycles, four-wheelers, they can fix them. Proud to have them all as sponsors. And love having this guy on, pulling double duty at the daughter's dance recital this morning. Live in the crowd, wearing a trench coat, glasses, and the hat. Fred Garvin, Yancy Porter from Rebel Yell Hotline. How are you?
Yancy? Great, guys.
Sorry about that. I may have put you to sleep with those commercials.
No. I had the microphone muted there. I didn't want the noise in the background. But
yeah,
we're in the car, got through with the first dance, and rocking and rolling down here in the Orange Beach.
Well, I'll be down there later this summer, sometime September, October. You cannot beat it. You go into Doc's Seafood, get you some of that gumbo. They sell it frozen. You can take it back with you. But Yancy, anybody talking on the beach down there while they're drinking road sodas about maybe SEC and college football, just possibly?
Man, I tell you what, again, we go through this, it seems like weekly, but baseball is so big at Ole Miss, and all the talk right now is on the baseball team. They just lost their Friday night starter and their top fielder, their top hitter on their team in the last 2 days, and it's not good. I think baseball was kind of the last pure sport, so to speak, left out of college athletics with all the craziness going on with NIL and the portal, and now it's full circle with baseball. So there's really nothing left. Those two guys just signed, renewed their contracts with the Grove Collective just last week. Got what they wanted, got a raise, made it big public, signing about it. And then a week later, right before the portal, they go in the portal and off they go. So it's crazy around the baseball program right now.
Well, I tell you what, they better hope it works out where they go, because, historically what draws the fans to love the schools is these student athletes. They feel like love the school as much as they do. What'll correct and fix the portal over time is guys like these two that just walked out when it doesn't work out and they want to come back to Ole Miss, and quite and justifiably so, they get the cold shoulder. That's called the free market. Think about it. If you quit on your teammates on a fourth quarter late drive because you're worried about, getting hurt, and you've been with these guys through all that you've been through, that friendship, those relationships, they're not going to ever happen. That makes me want to throw up what you just said. But this is the kind of stuff, the crash and burns, two guys that just made a big deal about, we're here. And then they go, I can tell you what that reminds me of, but I'm not going to do it on this show.
Both of those guys transferred to Ole Miss the year before. So this is their second time in the portal. Like I said, baseball was kind of like the last pure sport where you weren't dealing with all this chaos. Yeah, you had portal signings. You have guys that chase NIL money, but everything was on the up and up for the most part. But as we see now, most likely it's rumored, that Andrew Fisher's going to be going to Tennessee, and who knows where Doyle's going to end up, probably within the SEC too. So that's just going to pour a little bit some gas on the fire there. And, you just hate to see this, but it's the world we're in now. It kind of blows your mind why you would re-sign, make a big deal about it with the collective there at the university, announce you're coming back, and then just days later, you hit the portal, right? If you ever had any doubts, if you wanted more money than even what they were offering, then don't sign at all. And just transfer. So I think it was how they left, the circumstances under that, which really left a bitter taste in everybody's mouth. But, hey, they won't be the first ones and won't be the last for for not only Ole Miss but for all of these schools.
Say their names again.
Andrew Fisher. Andrew Fisher transferred in from Duke. He had 20 home runs his first year there at Ole Miss. He's projected. Yeah, both these guys that went in the portal are Ole Miss's 2 highest rated prospects too. Their 3rd highest rated prospect, JT Quinn, that pitched at Ole Miss the last 2 years, also went in the portal. But he did not re-sign with the Grove Collective and make a big deal. He was coming back. So it was a little bit under different circumstance. So they've literally lost their top 3 prospects that are juniors for the 25 draft. All of them were top 50 prospects in next year's draft, and they're all gone.
Yeah, I tell you what, you're learning, and I think I've always said this, in the SEC, it just means more to love your school, the grass, the buildings, the brick and mortar, the core. You know, John Hartwell, who's on with us, the AD at ULM a lot, he said what the difference is traditional fundraising and giving. You know, you have the Yancy Portal Center for Academic Excellence at the University of Mississippi, and that's always there. Now you've got NIL you give to some guy, and he didn't like what he had for breakfast this morning, and he's in the portal. Dadgummit. Boy, it makes you mad. All right, Yancy, hang on here with us. Got another great voice of reason, a great man, Rodney Ore, Tighter Insider, only $48 a year. Since 1996, the premier authority covering the Crimson Tide of Alabama. Rodney, happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Week. Freedom! How you doing, man? It's the coffee.
I'm doing well. If I wasn't awake, I am now, Rob. Thank you.
Sorry. I got Yancy Porter's on with us right now. Rebel Yell Hotline, of course. But Yancy, he was just talking about the 2 baseball guys re-signed with the Grove Collective last week. We love it here. Less than a week later, they're in the portal, and they're gone. But what's going on in Tuscaloosa? What's the latest as we get closer and closer to the start of college football? We're now 1,440 hours away from the start, just in case anybody cares and is keeping track.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, what's been happening over the last month is Alabama's recruiting, and Kalen DeBoer's staff, Courtney Morgan, of course, the manager, doing a fantastic job of, where they are right now. They've got 20 commitments, but maybe one of those guys or so it may end up elsewhere. But so they're doing a fantastic job, and another big day today, I think, for sure, with Caleb Edwards, who's an elite tight end from El Dorado Hills, California, 6'6", 240, choosing between Alabama, Oregon, Texas. Feel really good about Alabama's position with him. We'll see. He announces this afternoon around 2 or 2:30. So we'll see what happens there. But, that's basically really it, the hot streak that Kalen DeBoer's on in recruiting.
Well, and Yancy, question for both of y'all. I'll start with you, Yancy, and then back to Rodney. Season ticket sales at Ole Miss. Give us an update on those right now. We got the portal and NIL, all these distractions, but I got a feeling season ticket sales got to be hot in Oxford. Yancy. I hope Yancy's there. But let's flip it over to Rodney while we're waiting for Yancy to come back. Season ticket sales at Alabama. You got 102,000. And I think Alabama, Rodney, did they take some seats out to do some premium seating? But how are season ticket sales going in Alabama? In spite of all the stuff going on, I got to think they're strong there too, just as strong.
Yeah, I mean, I really haven't heard anything on season ticket sales in terms of a change. I mean, they're always at a premium. I talked to Greg Byrne about 2 weeks ago, and I think everything's going really, really well. And I haven't heard of anything significantly different in terms of the season ticket sales for this year.
Well, I just realized Yancy is at his daughter's dance recital down at Orange Beach, and he said when she comes on stage, I'll have to cut out. So
well, I don't blame him.
Yeah. Hey, it's the summer.
That's an early morning dance recital.
Yeah, down in Orange Beach. What a great place to be. They could be in Olathe, Kansas, or somewhere like that, burning up.
Yeah.
But hey, Rodney, Yancy, you're back. I didn't know if your daughter had been called out for dancing or what, but talk about season ticket sales at Ole Miss right now, because I would think they're really strong. Yancy, can you hear us? Okay. Must not be able to. Okay. So Yancy, jump back in whenever you can. But Rodney, I also want to ask you something. You've got this, it's a great book, Bigger Than Bama. And we got the QR code up on the screen right now. Not only are you putting out information every day about Alabama on Tighter Insider and those message boards and forums that you have, but you found the time, it took you a while to write this book. How are book sales going?
No, they're going well. Really, I think the focus right now is we're in the initial stages of starting a speaking ministry. And of course, I've been on a tour of sorts over the last few years, but we want to really kind of ramp that up a little bit, have the opportunity to, and I've had this opportunity here recently to speak at a few addiction recovery centers and, obviously churches and that type of thing. So really that's our focus right now, along with the book, and, to be able to reach out to people and connect with people. And that's really what where our efforts are focused right now.
Yeah. And one thing we find is that, I don't think there's a family out there that doesn't have something, some struggle that they're dealing with. And that's why when you write a book like this, it really, there's a connection and it resonates with people out there. And we'll help you promote that book every time you're on here, because we appreciate you taking time to join us. And I'm thinking about right now, guys, and Yancy, jump in when you can. We couldn't hear you there, but the passion of the fan bases. We've been watching Rodney out there in Austin. They showed the Texas people 4 hours Sunday night. Last night, or from 2 to 6 p.m. Central, it was live from Norman, Oklahoma. So let's go back over the last 14 years. Let's compare Texas. They've had 2 double-digit win seasons in the last 14 years. Last year, they were 12-2, and they were 10-4 in 2018 with Tom Herman. Okay? Other than that, they lost in those other 12 seasons, 11 times they lost 4 games or more in a season. The other time they lost 3. Oklahoma, on the flip side, in those last 14 years, has had double-digit wins in 11 of those seasons out of 14. One year they won 9, one year they won 8, one year they won 6. Oklahoma, all-time, 7 national championships, 7 Heisman winners. Texas, multiple Heisman Trophy winners. Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams, and 4 national championships. I mean, you can claim more. I mean, look, if you want. But then I look at Alabama in the last 14 years. Golly. They have not had a season in the last 14 years playing in the toughest conference in America where they won fewer than 11 games. And in that time, 2011, 2012, 2017, 2020, they won 4 national championships in the last 14 years.
2015 as well.
I'm sorry, 2015. My bad. Yeah, 2011, 2012, 2015, 2017, 2020. 5 national championships in that time frame. Golly, I think I think people have forgotten that. And I'm excited about Texas and Oklahoma coming in, but Georgia, they've won 2 of the last 3. The SEC, Texas and Oklahoma, they've had to play a few big games during the year But now look at the weekly grind that you've got to go up against. That's, to me, the biggest difference. And again, I love talking about Texas. I got some great Texas correspondents on here, and I'd love to strengthen our Oklahoma coverage. But Rodney, you spent some time in Texas.
30 years.
A lot of people, 20, a long time. So this, I think we're setting ourselves up for a lot of. I mean, football weekends are going to be incredible. And people say, well, you sit at home and watch the games. No, you go to the games, and if you can't get a ticket to get inside, you go to the tailgate where everybody's got 2 or 3 flat screens up there with cold beers, cold drinks, and lots of good Southern fried food. Not a bad Saturday, huh?
Yeah, I was interested in the comment that I guess the Texas AD made that they were everybody's Super Bowl coming into the SEC. They were going to be everybody's Super Bowl. I didn't even really understand the last few years that they were everybody's Super Bowl and where they were in the Big 12. That's a pretty interesting comment. From you pointed out some really interesting numbers. They've only had 2 double-digit wins since I guess
2010.
Colt McCoy's injury.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, it's interesting. I think Texas is on a little bit of an upswing right now. I think, obviously Sark, they had a good year last year after a really bad year his first year and an okay year his second year. They've gotten better every, I guess over the last 3 years. And, they're expected to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the SEC this year in terms of, what the expectations are. But it's going to be interesting. You use the word the week grind. You use that phrase, and that's funny because I used that yesterday, and I've used it before when it comes to Texas coming into the SEC, and Oklahoma too, for that matter. But especially Texas, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the week grind. That's the difference between really good teams and great teams are the ones that can handle that week-to-week grind.
Yeah. You know what? You think about superstars, musicians, entertainers. While a lot of them, I think, fall prey to drugs and alcohol, is the pressure to be perfect every appearance, every day, every night.
Yeah.
And in sports, Nick Saban preached the process, and also the patience of fans today. Tyler Siskey was on the show a couple of weeks ago with us. He's coached at Ole Miss, coached at Alabama, and he said something that he did his dissertation when he was a graduate assistant, and it was about the shrinking window of time for coaches in today's microwave instant gratification society. And he said, we'd have never heard of Frank Beamer. He said, Nick Saban would have been fired at Michigan State. Think about that.
Yeah,
and
no,
you look.
Bill McCartney, Colorado stuck with him. I remember back in the 90s. How he turned the program around. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I thought back in the 80s, actually, when they were going into the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. And Rodney, you think about this in today's world, like you look at Florida. I mean, we've got we're on in Florida. We're all over the place on this SEC Sidelines Sports Network and SECU, the Buddy Martin Show at night, Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, live. Best footballs, the best Fridays in football. Buddy and Urban Meyer do a show in the fall on this network. I think I know it's hard to tell people this, but you have to think, why did you hire the new coach? It's pretty obvious. The coach before him wasn't getting the job done, be it a lack of recruiting, development of players, everything, a huge list. It takes time to fix messes. And it's just, and like you said, Kalen DeBoer, he says a lot of great things. He's out there speaking to people, but you brought it up on the show. How's he going to react? Think about Gene Stallings' first year, lost 3 straight games. But over the next, 7 years, they won 70 games, back in the days of an 11-game schedule.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think when you look at Kalen DeBoer, he's inherited a pretty good situation, actually. Nick
Yeah,
Saban,
I think so.
Nick Saban always said he wanted to leave the program, on a high level, and he did that. And so, but I think Kalen DeBoer's inherited obviously a lot of talent. There's a lot of high expectations still for this team. You're fortunate you have an experienced quarterback in Milroe coming back. So I think all of those things are pluses as you head into this season. I think it's going to be a real interesting season to watch Alabama. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Milroe adjusts and that they make the adjustments to Milroe. And I think it's going to be really interesting watching the defense, because this is going to be the first time in 17 years it's not a Nick Saban defense. So I think a lot of eyes here are going to be on what happens on the defensive side of the ball. I think that Kalen DeBoer and that side of the ball on the offensive side they're going to do really well. I think they're going to find ways to score points. I think it's the defense that's going to be interesting. I'm not saying that they're not going to be really good under Kane Womack. Don't know. I just think it's going to be different because Nick Saban's not here anymore. That influence isn't there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how Alabama plays on that side of the ball.
Yeah. Obviously the standard is the college football playoff. I like this, from Chad Allen, one of our viewers. If Bama doesn't make the playoffs, they won't be happy in Tuscaloosa. Well, it should be that way, Rodney. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the fans.
Let me ask you, who is Auburn going to be happy if they don't make the playoffs?
No. That's the point.
Will Texas be happy? Will LSU?
No. This is what I've you know this, Rodney, but just as someone who talks to people that cover all 16 of these schools and growing up in the Southeastern Conference footprint, listen, once you win a national championship, whether you believe it or not, every year, that's what the fans want. When you eat the best steak or the best fish at the best restaurant, that's the standard from there on out. You're going to compare every steakhouse from that point on to CK's coffee shop. That's the standard, or whatever your standard is. And I think it's good to have fans that hold you accountable. You got a problem with that? I don't. I think it's great. It keeps the money coming and everything. And apathy is what'll destroy you.
Yeah. No, I think though that I understand a little bit about what Chad's saying here, and it's not so much the playoffs, but I think that the one thing when you have a transition like this, because I saw it with Coach Bryant, different situation though. He didn't leave the program in the same situation that as Nick Saban has. But at the same time, I think people they're going to overreact to everything that doesn't go exactly right.
Yeah.
You know what? They're going to overreact to that, and I think that that's the one thing that Kalen DeBoer I think has to face is that. So, but again, hey, Earl Bruce stepped in for Willie Hayes and went 11-0 that first year. You remember that? And then of course they lost to USC in the Rose Bowl. But I'm just saying, it's not like beyond the realm of possibility that Kalen DeBoer could have a really, really big year. I think there's high expectations.
Well, look at the talent on the blue chip index. Alabama, Ohio State's number one at 90%, which is that 4-year barometer of 4 and 5 stars every 4 years on your roster. Alabama's second at 88, Georgia's third at 80. Okay. Yeah. That ought to tell you. Okay, so I got a question for you. We talked about it last night on the Buddy Martin show. It was a great discussion. We talked about defenses. I'll argue that Brother Oliver, a man from Epps, Alabama, over in the Black Belt, is the greatest defensive coordinator I've ever seen. 13 SEC championship rings, I think 6 national championship rings. Did it twice at Alabama, twice at Auburn, I did it at Clemson. He lived up in Memphis with the Showboats when Logan Young and Billy Donovan owned the Showboats and had Reggie White. I think about this. Brother Oliver taught about everybody knowing everybody on the defense's responsibilities / assignments. That allowed them to blitz 10 and 11 guys occasionally. You know what I'm talking about. Would you argue that Brother Oliver is the greatest defensive coordinator that we've ever seen? He would win in any era of football. He's just that smart.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to top it, man. He was incredible. He did a fantastic job at Alabama. You know, obviously, he wasn't the defensive coordinator in the 70s, but he was a secondary coach, and he was a vital part of their defensive staff. And then, you know, when he came back in 1990 with Gene Stallings, I mean, what he did in that first year after you mentioned those 3 straight losses to open the Stallings era, I mean, it was pretty phenomenal. Their defense was probably as good as any defense in the country that year. Yeah. They went several games to, I don't know how many quarters they went without allowing a touchdown. But they were, you know, they had a streak there. Yeah, they were phenomenal. 90, 91, 92, you know, 93 they were even good. Can you imagine if Alabama would have had a legitimate offense in that era? If they would have determined to play offense in that era, they would have been, you know, they could have been a power. Gene Stallings won 70 games in 7 years, did a fantastic job, won a national championship. But I still say, Rob, you know, had he done some things differently in terms of offense and in terms of recruiting, he could have had a much longer run, in my opinion.
Oh, there's no doubt. Here's another one for you. That 92 Alabama defense. Chad Keys was a phenomenal, out of Thomasville, Georgia, defensive end. You think about Lemansky Hall out of Valley or Lynette, Alabama. Chris Donnelly from Germantown High School up in Memphis. Used to sit with his dad at the quarterback club meetings. They lived in Miami. He lived all over, but he came out of Germantown High School. Blair Canale went there from Christian Brothers High School, had injured his knee. I think about that defense with, though, Antonio Langham. That was the magical elixir. And he was from Town Creek. He basically got on the radar in the playoffs his senior year of high school. But that 92 defense, the 79 defense with E.J. Jr. out of Nashville, Pearl Cone or Hunters Lane High School, that 79 defense, the 92 defense. Now, I guess what I'm saying is the offenses back then were totally different. There was the wishbone in 79 and 92. It was a very limited conservative with Jay Barker, but they won. All they did was win. Had a 28-game winning streak. And I'm just trying to think, Alabama's 2011 or 2012 defense or the 2017 defense, which one is the best of Saban's career?
You know, everybody says 2011. A lot of people say 2011. I still say that the biggest shame of all was 2016 because I thought that defense was incredible. They produced so many non-offensive touchdowns. I mean, they scored touchdowns. Of course, they had some.
That's right.
Stuff like that. But
5 pick sixes or 6.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. They were that was a dominant unit, and you know, in that national championship game against Clemson, the problem was, you know, of course, Bo Scarborough got injured, but you know, you had an offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian, who had stepped in, 5 days earlier or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so there was a lot of issues there, and you had a quarterback that, you know, frankly, was a true freshman, did the best he could. He was a runner. He couldn't throw the ball extremely well. Hurts got better throwing it. But anyway, with all that said, you know, that defense, that was an all-timer, I think, as well.
Yeah, and that's a cool discussion to have. Look, Rodney, we've run out of time. I know you got a bunch on the docket today. Catch him, Rodney Ore, Tighter Insider. It's still only $48 a year. How do they follow you on social media? And you got a great TV show with Gary Harris. Talk about that, and we'll let you go. And let me close by saying this, folks. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We are the most blessed people in the greatest country in the history of the world. We the people, we are the difference, and we will get control of college football. But Rodney, tag us out, and we'll do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, it's TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. If you're an Alabama fan, you can get instant access with your credit card right now. Or if you prefer, there is an address there to send a check, and that gives you all a premium, a lot of recruiting information. But also our All Sports Forum, that's our community of Alabama fans there. All for $48 a year on TiderInsider.com.
Hey, you cannot beat it, man. Happy 4th of July, folks. We will see you tonight on the Buddy Martin Show, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on this network, and back here again tomorrow morning. Thanks for watching.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.